Back with another breakdown, this time with Jeff Chan, MMA. So he's very popular on YouTube, but I guess this one's not exactly him, but it's a video he just published recently. Develop violent punching power with these, I'm assuming, exercises. So I'm going to run through, it looks like he's got his personal trainer running him through a few exercises for developing punching power. I'm going to run through whether I think these are suitable or not. Again, nothing against these coaches, fighters, people in the video, anything like that. It's just my opinion, my personal preferences, my experiences. Again, just getting a snapshot into what they're trying to do. So let's get into it. Okay. B change bit. Let's do it.
Great exercises. If you like this video, please remember to
Alright.
like, comment.
So I'm gonna have this running as well, just so we can get an idea into the explanations too.
We often think of those strikes as a pushing movement, but the forgotten mechanic is that there's a powerful pull in all of these strikes. So we're going to create
That
a
is
lot
true.
of torque here. So Jeff is both pushing simultaneously with the band while he pulls a reasonably heavy dumbbell. It's all about torque, right? It's about the shoulders with the torso and how they're working together, right?
Okay, let's start with this one. So we have a band push and pull with the dumbbell pull. So the idea on this one, as he's saying here, is to work the violent pull from the dumbbell with the push of the band. So you get that, I guess, that rotation, that push-pull, which has some merit, yes. This particular exercise, though, I am not sold. And there's a few reasons for it. Let me just see if he's got anything else to add. Okay, so one of the issues, there's a few issues. One is the stability of it. So if you're looking to maximize rotational strength and power, you have to have some kind of stability, because with the unstableness, you entirely blunt the speed and the force generated because you're having to stabilize. Two, the rotation isn't isolated. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't perform any isolated upper body rotation. I think there is some value there. But a lot of it should be done including the legs and the hips, because that is where the force is generated for you to rotate. A bit exercise would be anything that's like a cable, explosive cable rotation, band rotation, landmine rotations, medicine ball rotational throws. Those are all better options because they involve the lower body and the hips and allow you to segment from the floor through to the upper body versus trying to isolate the upper body in an awkward bent over position just to do a push and a pull, which I don't believe will translate very well to your punching power. Especially since, the hardest punchers have most of their contributions from their legs. And even the research, if you check Ed Baker on the Sweet Hearts Fine podcast with his research around the contributions from the legs too, from punching. So, this isn't going to do anything for you. I'm sorry. All right, next exercise then. See if we can redeem ourselves on this one.
You can see his rear foot.
So a little staggered stance or B stance position.
We're going to make some springs here, okay? So he's driving powerfully through the floor. We've increased his weight, so he's heavier than he normally would be. He's using about a 16 kilo bell. You don't need anything super heavy, but this is a great way.
So we've got a 16 kilo kettlebell, and it's loaded.
Without having to use massive weights, right? It's exhausting.
It's
Makes good conditioning. And you can see he can express his power in a safe and effective way.
So a little contradictory in the explanation of this exercise. So he's given this exercise to develop power in the legs, being able to jump with light to moderate loads to develop that power. But then he also talks about it's fatiguing and it's good conditioning. Those two things don't go together, unfortunately. If you're looking to maximize power, everything needs to be maximal effort, maximal rest and recovery, so you can elicit these high power outputs for each and every rep and every single set. If you're doing it to fatigue and doing it for lots of reps because you're looking for fatigue, then you're not developing power and you're not going to get more powerful. You're not going to get stronger and more powerful legs. You're not going to be able to punch harder. So that's one issue. He's got it loaded ipsilaterally, which means the weight is on the same side as the working leg. which again creates more instability. And if you're trying to jump with more instability, again, you're throttling the amount of force you can generate when you're jumping, which again contradicts the idea of being able to develop maximal power. So a better option would be to hold 2 kettlebells in this instant, 2 8-kilo kettlebells to equal 16 kgs in this example. And then you're able to maximize power while you're jumping versus holding it in one hand. So if you're going to do this, do a body weight, do it with two or a weight in each hand, barbell on your back, etc. These are all better options. I do like the staggered stance approach though. It's a very good exercise you can do, but you've got to do it with maximal intent, low reps, and lots of rest. So I would literally do 3. In this instance, if you're looking to develop maximal jumping power in the legs, anywhere from 2 to 4 reps a side, and I would have a little rest between doing each side so you can maximize the intent on every single rep. But look how slow that is, right? Like, I'm assuming this is just for a demo, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but if you were jumping like this, you're not gonna do shit for your power development, I'm sorry to say. Again, has to be done with intent. That's the idea of power training or speed training. If you're not doing it with speed or power, then you do not get speed and power. It's a simple rule to follow. Okay.
Okay, so
next one.
We're going to play with leverage here. So there's different ways to create force. Of course, you can always add weight to a barbell.
Okay.
But what you can see here is Jeff's going to use leverage. So he's using the bar asymmetrically. He's got one hand on the fat part.
This asymmetric barbell stuff is to die.
The further his hands are apart,
so this is like
closer his hands are together,
what would you call it? This is like the Instagram social media exercise takeover that seems to happen as people try and do quote-unquote specific exercises for sport, especially combat sports, because combat sports athletes I think are more susceptible to this kind of stuff. Actually, that's not true. A lot of sporting athletes are. I mean, just look at American football and people training with Joel Seedman and stuff like that. So
just show them that one time and give himself some support, and immediately there's less.
So he's treating it as almost like an anti-rotation core exercise, it seems, on the floor. Yeah, okay. I can see, putting into that context, I can see some value there. But again, just like the first exercise, there are better ways to do it and better ways to load it, in my opinion. Again, through band cable rotations, medicine ball throws, landmine rotations, all that really simple basic stuff standing. Because the idea that doing something lying or prone, for example, like planks, and then it transferring into standing sports like combat sports, where you're having to segment and sequence what's happening from the floor through to your hands, is marginable at best, at least in my opinion. And that's why I don't program planks or anything like that in my programs. I don't think planks have any value in athletic performance in any sport. I think planks, for anyone not familiar, prone holds, planks, I guess they're kind of interchangeable. I don't know if there's another name for them, but yeah, to me, they serve no purpose. They serve no value. They're not hard enough. You're literally just holding an isometric position for a minute, and then the transfer you're going to get into athletic performance, I think, is very negligible. And I think this kind of falls into that category. Whereas if you're doing something standing, I mean, the best, I'm not saying not to train your trunk and your abs, etc., but the best core training for combat sports is literally the combat sport itself. Throwing violent punches, kicks, grappling, manipulating. Like, for example, if you're like in grappling, if you're fighting over-unders and then manipulating your opponent with the handles, the tricep and the lat, and you're moving them around, man, that's killer on your trunk, and you can't replicate that with something like this. Same thing with the violent punches and kicks and striking, which you can actually replicate with medicine balls. And I think that gives you a better transfer than something like this. And the asymmetric barbell stuff, like, it just needs to stop happening. Okay, we're going to do it again.
If his hand go wider, it gets easier. If his hand comes in, it gets harder. This is an insane amount of leverage, right? And in striking situations and MMA situations, it's not just about raw strength. So many of those situations are about leverage. So you can use a fairly light weight, This thing feels like 185 pounds when you're rowing. Amazing job, Jeff. Good. Let's
Okay.
get both sides. So again, you can decide how hard
Hasn't
you want
actually
this to be by
really
how many-
explained why
but
this one
holy
is.
shit. Can I swear on your videos? Holy shit. Do your biceps, lats, and also your anti-rotation muscles have to work crazy
Okay,
hard.
so again, it's a glorified, I guess, quote unquote, core exercises, anti-rotation. So it looks like everything that we've done so far is mainly centered around functions of the trunk, or called resisting movement, which is, there is a time and place for that, of course. Anti-rotation, anti-flexion, anti-extension, anti-lateral flexion are all functions of the quote-unquote core. And I turn the core actually from the shoulders through to the hips. That's everything in between, not just the ab muscles. But if we're just going to talk core in general terms of just the ab muscles, yes, those things happen. But, in combat sports, you're not just resisting movement. There, especially in striking sports, there's a lot of concentric movement within that, rotation, flexion, etc., etc. Again, this is just a snapshot of a few exercises, so that's not to say this is all he's doing, etc. But you don't need to do these weird asymmetric rows to challenge that. And I can tell you now, throws, landmine rotations, etc. will be more challenging than doing something like this. And then you're adding this row in, which does nothing for loading the lats or the biceps, really. Yes, you're using leverage with the barbell, but are you going to get more from doing pull downs and dumbbell rows for the lats, or bicycles for the biceps, over doing this for those? Yes. You don't need to attack every single muscle or attack multiple muscles like that from one exercise. You can use specific exercises to overload whatever it is you want, versus trying to overload multiple things at once. And I think this is where it's slightly misguided, where it's trying to do, the exercise is trying to do too many things at once. Exercises don't need to do that. They can be simple. They can develop or target, a certain movement or certain muscle group, instead of trying to target multiple muscle groups and multiple movements.
This should make it really hard to push around. Okay, great. So we've got a variation of a hack squat we're going to use on the cable machine.
Okay.
What I like about this, it demands a lot of work from the upper back, the thoracic spine, resisting flexion, and it minimizes the demand on the ankle, so you can get a really deep squat without having killer ankle mobility. That's a good example. So you can see he's really leaning back quite a bit here, because if he leans forward, it becomes more of just a bicep curl resistance. Let's have a really, really deep squat, a lot of quad dominance, because you're really having to push off, and we're creating all this strength in the upper back and the abs in resisting the pull of the pulley. 8, 12, 15, calibrate it the way you like. This is one of my favorites.
Okay, so again, another example of an exercise trying to do too much. You can't load this heavy enough to develop strength in the legs. So if we're doing squats, and in this example, if we're doing squats, you're trying to develop force generation capabilities, being able to produce more force or produce more force quickly, because we know that punching power, most of the contributions come from the legs. If we're able to generate more force from the ground by pushing into the floor, and we're able to transfer that to the hands, theoretically we're able to punch harder. An exercise like this is severely limited, because we're limited by what we can actually pull up from the cable in the first place, and then what we can hold in that position at the top, which becomes a problem because we can't overload the legs. And yes, I understand the idea of overloading the upper back and overloading the arms. Okay, but we have other exercises we can do that. Or you could even do something like a Zercher squat out of the rack, where you don't have to pick up the cables if you're looking to do all of this at once. And those would be better options than trying to use this cable where you're underloading the legs and you're severely limited by the upper body. So it looks like the main issue in my opinion, around these exercises, one, they're trying to do too much. So they underload or under stress a lot of the muscles, and also what you're trying to achieve out of it. They don't have intent behind them. So you're kind of you're doing a bit of everything, but not doing enough to really stress change. And this is pretty prevalent around you'll find a lot on Instagram and social media with various, I guess you could say, kind of specific exercises for a lot of combat sports. I know you'll hear a lot of people, strength training is just general training, and what you like just stick to the basic compounds and stuff. I still do believe there is a small specificity spectrum. I think you can go from more general strength training to something that's slightly more specific. I don't believe it goes as far as something like this, but there is a spectrum. But I think a lot of people take it too far to the point where it becomes a quote-unquote specific strength conditioning program for, in this example, punching power, but it doesn't actually develop or stimulate the adaptations that you want for punching power, which would be stronger, more powerful legs, faster and more powerful rotation, better stiffness at impact, and then obviously it comes down to technical ability, technical tactical awareness. So, with those things in mind, basic exercises like squats, all the rotation exercises that I mentioned through this video will be better served for you to develop punching power versus exercises like these. But if there's anything else you want me to break down, let me know down in the comments. Please subscribe. Channel's slowly growing, and I'll deliver more videos